Hello boys and girls, in this video I'm just going to show you how to multiply by 10, 100 and 1000 and what the rule for that is. Okay, so I've got my place value labelled out here. So if you take a look, we have our thousands, hundreds, tens, ones, and then we go into decimals, tenths. Now the decimals are less than 1, so they are a part of a number. So there's tenths, hundredths, thousandths and tens of thousands. Now in this video I'm just going to show you a little trick which will help you when you are multiplying. Okay, so take the number 1. Okay, so when we write the number 1 we don't usually write 1.0. We could do if we wanted to because it doesn't change the value of the number, but that 0.0 is always there. So it's 1.00000. They are always there. We just don't write them because we don't need to write them all the time. Otherwise we'd be writing that all day every day and it would take forever. And the same goes for this. 0, 0, 0. All those zeros are always there all the time. Now in this number we have 0 thousands, 0 hundreds, 0 tens, and 1 1, or 1 unit. We have 0 tenths, 0 hundredths, 0 thousandths, 0 tens of thousands. Now, when we're multiplying, what we're doing is when we're multiplying by 10, we are moving the decimal place backwards, or well, in this case forwards. So if you take a look, I'm going to start on a fresh page here just to show you. Okay, boys and girls, we'll take a look at dividing by 10 and multiplying by 10. Okay, so we'll take the number 1, which is really 1.0000000. Oops. 0. Okay. Now, when we're saying the number 1, we don't often say 0.00001.000. We don't need to say that. Those zeros are always there, but we don't need to say them because, and we don't need to write them. They have no value here. So that's why we don't. Otherwise we'd be here all day and it would just take forever to write anything because you'd be writing zeros all day. So that's why we don't do it. But they are always there. And there's a very good reason why I'm putting these down. When we're multiplying by 10 or dividing by 10, we have to move that decimal place in a different direction, and that changes the value of the number. Now, can you take a guess what direction you would move the decimal point if you're dividing by 10? If you thought left, you are correct. The number gets smaller when you divide by 10, so that decimal point needs to move to the left. Because if you think about it, if you divide something up, it makes that number smaller. So that's why when you're dividing by 10, 100, or 1000, it always goes to the left, because when the decimal point moves to the left, the number gets smaller. And when you're multiplying, if you can guess, or hopefully probably guess, when you're multiplying by 10, the number goes to the right because the number gets bigger. So let's take a look. If I'm multiplying by 10, there is a rule to tell me how many decimal places I move. And the rule has to do with the number of zeros there are in that number. So because there's 1 0 when dividing by 10, you would move it 1 decimal place. When you're multiplying by 10, there's only 1 0, so you move it 1 decimal place. So let's take a look. I'll multiply this number by 10. So this decimal point will go from here, and I'm moving it to the right because I want to make the number bigger, because we're multiplying, so it goes to here. So I'm just going to rub that out and then put the new one here, and now the number is 10. Now when you look at it there, it says 10.000, which we just don't need to say all those zeros. They are always there, we just don't need to say them. Now let's take a look. I shall bring this back to the start, rub out that decimal point. Okay, now if I was looking to divide by 10, that means I'm making the number smaller, so the decimal point needs to move to the left. Now, can you tell me, or can you have a think, stop the video, and have a think, how many decimal places do I need to move that decimal point? How many places do I need to move it? And what's the trick for remembering how many places I need to move it? Okay, well, if you thought 1, you were correct, because there's only 1 0, and the trick is, obviously, count the amount of zeros it is, and that tells you how many decimal places you need to move that point. Okay, so we'll move that 1 point divided by 10 to the left. So 1.0 has now become 0.1, or 0.1. You don't always have to say the 0. So that answer is 0.1. Now, if I wanted to multiply by larger numbers, we'll jump to, jump to 1,000. So, hang on. So we multiply and divide by 1,000, and we'll stick with 0.1. This time I want to multiply by 1,000. What direction is that? That would be moving to the right, moving the decimal point to the right. And how many places do I need to move it? And how do you know how many places I need to move it? If you have a think, we move it 1, 2, 3 places. And the reason why we move it 3 places is because there are 3 zeros, which tells us how many places we need to move. So 0.1, so that decimal point will move from here, 1, 2, 3. So, did I do that right? 1, 2, 3. No, I left out one. Oops. Okay, so with the decimal point being here, it's 1, 2, 3. So it's actually there. Okay, so the new number 0.1 multiplied by 1,000 is 100. Remember, we don't need to say those, but they are always there. Okay. So remembering that they're always there will really help you when multiplying or dividing by 10, 100, or 1,000. Let's take a look at this next page. Okay, so I'm going to try the number 356.4. And if you remember our rule, there's always zeros that go after, and they can go on forever. And there's always zeros before, and they can go on forever. We just don't need to say them, but they're always there. Okay, so now we've got our number. We're going to try multiplying this time by 1,000. So we're going to divide by 1,000. Oh, get the arrow going that way. Oh, that's a rubbish arrow. I'm going to draw that again because that's a bit yuck. Okay, try that one more time. Divided by 1,000. And then we're going to multiply by 1,000. Okay, so let's take a look. We've got our decimal point, which is here, and if I multiply by 1,000, how many decimal places is it going to move? It's going to move 3 decimal places. What direction is it going to move? Well, because we're multiplying, we're making the number larger, so that decimal point is going to have to go that way. So it's going to move 3 spots. It's going to move 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the new decimal point is going to be here. And we'll just rub out the old one. So the new number, I'm going to have to put in a comma here because it's a very big number, is 356,400. Now, now that we've multiplied by 1,000, we're now going to divide by, I'm going to make it a bit trickier actually. I'm going to divide by 100,000. How many decimal places does it move? Well, it's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places, and it's moving to the left because the number is getting smaller because we're dividing it up into pieces, or equal parts, 100,000 equal parts to be exact. Okay, so we're going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places. So we're going to rub out the old decimal point, going to write in the new decimal point, and now the new number is 3.564. Remember, you do not need to say the numbers in the end, or the zeros in the end, or the zeros before that. Now the zeros, if there was a zero in between the numbers, you would need to say that, but not the ones on either end, unless it's right before the decimal point, in which case it's probably easier to say. You can say point, whatever, but it's maybe just better to say it if it's there. So always, if you forget what direction the decimal point moves when you're multiplying or dividing by 10, 100, or 1,000, for example, just ask yourself the question, is the number getting bigger or smaller? Well, when you're multiplying, the number is getting bigger, so the decimal point would move to the right to make the number larger. If you're dividing, you're making the number smaller, so you would move that decimal point to the left, making the number smaller. Hope that makes sense. And we're going to go over this more and more this week, and we'll have plenty of practice with it.